If you're trying to start data analytics, you're probably doing too much too early. And not because you're motivated, but because when you're a beginner, no one tells you exactly what matters first. Most people don't feel overwhelmed because data analytics is hard. They feel overwhelmed because they're trying to learn everything at once. So in this video, I'm going to show you the least overwhelming way to start data analytics, how to focus on the right things in the right order without burning out or second guessing yourself. If you're just getting started and feeling scattered, stuck, or behind, this will help you reset your approach. So let's get started. While the internet has made learning free, it did not make learning structured. Right now, you can access every single SQL tutorial, every single Python course, and every single Tableau walkthrough ever recorded. That sounds like an opportunity, but for beginners, that's cognitive chaos. There's a psychological principle called Hick's Law. The more options that you have, the longer that it takes you to decide. And when options explode, action slows down completely. And that's exactly what's happening to you right now. You're not behind, but you're overloaded. But these two things require opposite strategies. When you're behind, you need to accelerate. But if you're overloaded, you actually need to subtract. But most beginners will try to solve overload by adding more. Another tool, another certification, and another course. And that's how they get stuck in that cycle. Beginners don't need more information. They need constraint. And constraint builds clarity. Clarity builds execution. Execution builds confidence. I know this because I lived it. When I first discovered analytics, I did what everyone else did. Data science had all the hype back then. Every content creator was pushing it. But as someone who literally flunked out of college and failed math, I looked at that high barrier to entry with all the heavy statistics, machine learning, and heavy math, and I made the deliberate choice to go the data analyst route. I narrowed down my focus to SQL, Excel, and Tableau, and I went deep instead of wide. And I ended up landing my first analyst role in about 3 to 4 months later, not because I was smarter than anyone else. Clearly I wasn't because I failed out of college before, but because I subtracted instead of adding. Okay, so here's where it gets uncomfortable. Most beginners aren't trying to learn effectively. They're just trying to feel intelligent or just keep up with the Joneses. Watching advanced tutorials always feels productive. Machine learning sounds impressive, AI projects sound exciting, Python sounds powerful, but exposure is not competence. When you try to learn Python and SQL at the same time, you aren't just learning two tools. You're forcing your brain to switch controls constantly, and that switching acts like a tax on your memory. Every time you jump from one tool to another, your brain has to rebuild its working framework from scratch. That feels like progress, but it's actually friction. But here's a deeper issue. When you watch a tutorial of someone writing a SQL query and think, hey, that makes sense, that's recognition. But when you open a blank SQL editor and try to do it yourself, your mind goes blank. That's reality. You mistake familiarity for mastery, but the market doesn't reward familiarity, it rewards execution under ambiguity. So if overload is a problem and trying to do advanced stuff is a trap, what exactly is the alternative? You need a starting structure that removes the friction instead of adding complexity. This is what I call the low friction analyst method. Not because it's easy, but because it eliminates unnecessary resistance at the beginning. Most beginners try to maximize speed. This method maximizes clarity, and clarity compounds faster than speed ever will. The low friction analyst method has 3 parts that we will cover one by one. If you apply these 3 things consistently for 60 to 90 days, you will build more real competence than most beginners build in a year. So let's break it down. Okay, step 1. Stop saying that, hey, I just want to become a data analyst. That's not a goal, that's just an identity wish. A real starting outcome sounds like, I'm going to research a real business problem and find data that matches it and walk through the full data analytics life cycle. So here's exactly how to do it. Pick an industry that you care about or one that you actually work in. It could be retail, healthcare, finance, marketing, whatever. Spend about 20 minutes researching one high-value business problem in that space. What keeps decision makers up at night? Customer churn, inventory delays, revenue drops. You can find these by asking ChatGPT or even Gemini Research. What are the top business problems in retail right now that data analytics can solve? Now, once you find your problem, here's the key. Don't just go to Kaggle and grab a random data set. You can use ChatGPT Deep Research or Gemini Deep Research to find a public data set that matches your problem. And if you can't and need fake data, you can just go to Gemini or ChatGPT and say, generate a data set with 500 rows that includes all the key aspects that you just researched before. And then it'll create a CSV for you. Download that, and now you have data that is directly tied to the business problem that you researched. Then you can open Excel and walk through the full life cycle. Define the objective, what's the business question, clean the data, remove duplicates, fix formatting, handle any missing values, and then analyze. All right, step two, learn in small, complete loops. Massive projects don't build momentum, small wins do. A Harvard researcher studied over 12,000 diary entries from professionals and found that the single most important motivator wasn't a big breakthrough or a promotion. It was what she called the small win, a moment of tangible, incremental progress. So, completing one SQL query that actually returns the right answer is a neurological hit that keeps you coming back tomorrow. But staring at an unfinished 3-week project does the opposite. And here's how you can practice without getting bored. Every day, use a completely different data set to keep it fresh and keep it interesting. Monday, 30 to 45 minutes on a data cleaning challenge. Find a messy data set. Maybe it has missing values, opening in Excel or whatever tool that you'd like. You can use filters or identify the nulls, decide how to handle those, delete rows, fill with averages, whatever makes sense. And then you can start with a new data set tomorrow. The next day, you can focus on Power Query. Find another data set with inconsistent formatting. Maybe the dates are written in text. Maybe there's a bunch of extra spaces in the names. You can focus on trimming spaces, converting data types, splitting columns, whatever the case is. The next day, focus on SQL. Use a site like SQLpractice.com or PG Exercises so you don't need to install anything. You can do 3 to 5 practice questions over topics that you're not comfortable with yet. Joins, CTEs, or whatever. Thursday, data viz remakes. This is one of my favorite exercises. Go online and find a terrible chart. There's plenty of them. You can even take a screenshot, paste it into ChatGPT and say, create a spreadsheet with this data that will produce this chart. It'll give you a CSV, download it and open it into your favorite data viz tool and then recreate it into something that makes more sense. Remove the clutter, use color intentionally, whatever case is. One chart, 45 minutes, and then you're done. All right, quick pause. Now, if you want to land your first job in data analytics and avoid the lengthy mistakes that I did, click the link in the pinned comment where you can find the exact steps that my students use to land their job in data analytics without going back to school. All right, now let's get back to it. The key is variety without chaos. Same tools, different data, different problems every single day. That's how you build depth without burning out. When you stack completions, doubt shrinks because you have proof now, and the market does not reward effort, it rewards evidence. Small completed loops generates evidence faster than big unfinished ambitions. Step three, ignore the noise. Right now, machine learning is noise, advanced statistics is noise, cloud engineering is noise, vibe coding is noise. Not because that they lack value, but because they lack value for you right now. Advanced topics are attractive because they make you feel smart. Fundamentals are uncomfortable because they expose your gaps. But the people getting hired as data analysts right now are the ones who did not dabble in TensorFlow. They're the ones who master the fundamentals that everyone else thought was too boring. Every skill that you learn should produce a project that you can show, a story that you can tell, and a result that you can measure. If your learning doesn't lead to proof, it's just consumption. Turn every lesson into an artifact and turn every artifact into leverage. That is how you build a career in data analytics, not by collecting certificates, but by building evidence. But knowing what to focus is only half of the equation. The other half is knowing whether your work is actually good enough to compete in this job market. And that's a question most beginners never get answered honestly until it's too late. If you want the exact roadmap on how to go from where you are to hired, watch this next video here.